Hey everyone, how are you doing? Well, it's Tuesday. Great day. If you're hearing me, then it's the best day of your life. So how are you doing? Hold on one second here. Well, here we go. Wow, there's already 10 of us in here. All right, either you're playing hooky, you're in another part of the country where it's already evening, or you're just enjoying the day. How is everyone? Good to see everyone. Glad they're here. There's 11 of us, and now, how can someone put a thumbs down? You know, that is just a mean-spirited individual. And, you don't even say a word and someone puts a thumb down, you can just take that kind of, I'll quote Jeff Doherty, take that con out of here. We don't put up with that. You know what? Hi, Sandra D. How are you doing? Curious title. Yes, it is Species Reset. So we're going to get into some pretty heavy thing today. And this is all 100% evidence. In other words, if we were in a court of law, and I've been there, you have to produce evidence. Otherwise, you don't have a case and you'll lose your case. So without evidence, you have no case. I think that's the problem with Christianity. There is no evidence and, religion in general. But let me go on. I digress. So let me get right to the heart of the matter here, because I believe that you will see what, and let me put this together for you. Give me 1 second here as he fiddles about and goes into this mode. Give me 1 second. Boy, don't you just hate it when people are unprepared? Actually, we are. Okay, so life reset. We think about our species in a very one-dimensional point of view. Each and every one of us think that we are the epitome of what intelligence is, that our species is the top of the food chain. We're the most intelligent, and therefore we dominate the top slot. However, history shows a far different reality. What history shows to us is this, is that our species, in which there are many, have absolutely collapsed, absolutely gone extinct completely. And the evidence is showing that it's very possible that the Homo sapien species is about to hit the same thing. What do I mean by this? Well, the news came out yesterday that scientists have discovered a new DNA. Now, this new DNA structure is amazing. And when you think about DNA and the discovery of DNA, it was James D. Wilson who actually discovered the double helix. And from there, we began to understand how these bodies work. They contain more information than any of us will ever tap into. I'm convinced that most of us completely stay ignorant of what is within us. And you're going to see how this ignorance has harmed our species in the past and is harming our species today. So what this new discovery has shown is that we've always saw DNA as a double helix. It's how we understood the structure of the very molecules of our body. So generally speaking, as you see this, the molecule comes from the adenine binding with the thymine and the cotinine binding with the guanine. Guanine? Yeah, there we go, guanine. This is what we always saw DNA to be, but now they've discovered this thing called the I motif. The I motif is a 4-stranded knot of DNA. Now, this is very different. This is, I'm going to tell you, it's throwing everything that we thought we knew out the door. We're discovering so much new information that it's very difficult to actually replace the new facts with what the old facts were thought to be. And as you can see here, this does not bind the way the double helix normally does. And I actually have it here for you so you can actually see what it looks like. Excuse me. So here we go. We all have DNA. This is the double helix. This is where all the diseases are. This is where all the genetic mutations take place. This is where all the genetic advances take place in what we call evolution. Yes, evolution, not creation, evolution. Now, we also all contain RNA. A lot of people don't realize that, but we do. And there's other life forms that strictly have RNA alone. So within this, we know how the structure works. And within the last, 100 years, 70 years, 40 years, 20 years, in the last 1 month, what we thought we knew is how the body worked. And, all medical science breakthrough on diseases like, muscular dystrophy, any type of neuro diseases that affect the nervous system, the muscle system. This is where the breakdown takes place. And from that, we've gotten cures. Now, from this as well, Big Pharma has perverted this. And this is why virtually 9 out of 10 citizens of the globe are addicted to some drug. And when I say addicted, I don't care if they're issuing you a prescription each month, you're addicted to it. Now, you could say, well, I'll quit taking it. Yeah, well, let's just see how far that goes. The problem is it's not there to cure you. It's just there to keep you alive. So now the question becomes, who are we? Who are we as a species? Now, we're going to discover here in a couple of seconds that mindsets become passed on from generation to generation. Belief systems are passed on from generation to generation. I'm going to show you why it's impossible that there was ever this thing called a garden. We know it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. But let's get to the point of what this reset looks like. So I'm going to go through some rather interesting, startling insights from Sapiens. And this is by the guy, check his book out. Yuval Harari. It's a good book, going to blow you away. Most people that are pretty much locked already, they'll never read it. But this is us, folks. This is you and I. 70,000 years ago, 6 species of humans populated the world. By all best estimations, approximately 1 million of these 6 species inhabited the globe. We know that architecture is history's biggest fraud. Hunter-gatherers worked less than peasants, ate better, and were more hygienic. Yeah, can you imagine that? I think so often we get this weird idea that, those that lived 100,000 years ago were just ignorant. And they were more healthier. Well, agriculture opened up the way for social stratification, exploitation, and possible patriarchy. Think about it. Those of you who come out of the Christian religion, it all starts in the garden, right? The first supposed, I don't know how you want to call it, sin, whatever, the first murder took place because one was offering a blood sacrifice and one was bringing merely the fruit of the earth. And you've seen what happened in that situation. All right, let's talk about domesticated animals are miserable. In evolutionary terms, domesticated animals such as cattle are enormously successful, but being put to work does not suit their bodies or their social needs. Again, we've got this arrogance about us. We do not realize that we share this planet with other kingdoms. There is the animal kingdom. There is, in fact, the plant kingdom, and there's probably a couple more that we don't even know about. And when you violate one kingdom, then you set off a causality effect. We go on. Gossip helped us evolve. Every one of us do it. Don't sit there and say you don't gossip it. You liar. We're all liars too. It's the Homo sapiens. If you could really condense it, what are Homo sapiens? They're liars. Oh, we're good at it. We don't even have to be taught how to lie, to deceive. Let's go on. To stay alive, we need to know who in our society hates whom, who is sleeping with whom, who is a cheat, and so on. Gossip meant we could develop tighter, more sophisticated systems of cooperation. Key word of the day, cooperation. You're going to see. Go on. Our cooperation is based on shared fictions. You hearing me? Fictions. Large-scale cooperation is organized around common imaginary stories. When many people believe in the same stories about gods, nations, monies, or human rights, they follow the same laws and rules. Now, you think about this. If you were at the ultimate power structure, what do you have to have? Cooperation. All right, let's continue. Humankind will soon disappear. In all likelihood, we will upgrade ourselves using technology to a point where we are no longer recognizable as humans. In effect, we will turn into our gods. Fact, today, one species, Homo sapiens, ruled the planet. All the other species died out. They're gone. And today, over 7 billion of this species is now contaminated. And that's the word. It's a virus. The Homo sapiens are a virus. We act as a virus. We conduct our lives as a virus. Everything. And if you look at it from, let's say, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, Homo sapiens are a virus. We continue. Yeah. This is from Yuval's book, and I think it's going to set off some cognitive dissonance. All right, let's continue. Homo sapiens, our species, are animals. We are animals. Get it settled. We are from the genus Homo, which means man, and the species Sapiens, which mean wise. Members of the Homo genus evolved in East Africa about 2.5 million years ago. This means that when Sapiens first evolved, there were multiple other Homo species on this planet, including the more famous Homo neanderthalensis. The truth is that from about 2 million years ago until around 10,000 years ago, the world was home to several human species. Only our species survived to the present day, and we are not sure, why this is. We don't know. It's the great mystery. Something happened. But this is not the first time something happened. From about 300,000 years ago, our genus began using fire. This created a revolution as it allowed us to cook food, allowing us to eat foods we normally could not digest, killing bacteria and massively decreasing the amount of time chewing and digesting our food. It is believed that this revolution allowed us to grow the jumbo brains we are now so used to. Homo sapiens, humans that look just like us, first appeared on East Africa around 150,000 years ago. At this point, we were an inconsequential species fighting for our survival like many others on this planet. Something very special happened around 70,000 years ago that led to what is called the cognitive revolution. From around 70,000 years ago to 30,000 years ago, sapiens experienced unprecedented prosperity, allowing us to leave Africa and reach places as far as Australia. It is in this time that boats, oil lamps, bows, arrows, needles for cloth making were invented. During this period, we also see the development of art, religion, commerce, and social stratification. It is commonly believed that a genetic mutation allowed us to think and communicate in unprecedented ways, thus igniting this revolution. The only answer that can be found is that it had to be a genetic mutation. Now, what triggered the mutation, what caused it, we still don't know. There is something very special about the way we communicate, particularly when you think about the language, and I misspelled the word there, excuse me, abilities, yes. When I first wrote that, I said, is that really a word? It is, and it is when the guy was writing it. Specifically, our ability as a species to speak about fiction. We are the only animal that can speak about things that don't exist, and from this collaborate in flexible ways that no other animal is able to. This is why we rule the world. We rule the world because of our imagination. We rule the world because of this crazy thing that happened when we started learning how to use the vocal cords and connecting it to the stem. And it is connected directly to the stem. And as you can see, fiction is lying. It's how we pacify ourselves. It's how we entertain ourselves by lying. We lie to ourselves. We lie to each other. Now, you can call it fiction, make-believe, imaginary, whatever, but it still has the same root connotation. There are no gods in the universe, no nations, no money, no human rights, no laws, no justice. All these concepts exist solely in imagination of human beings. There is absolutely no evidence that humans have any rights other than those of which we've given ourselves and excluded other life forms and living things from. There's absolutely no evidence, none, that we deserve any justice at all. There is no evidence of any God, none. I say all the time, if there is a God, that is in fact a God, let that God manifest before our species. There is none. It's made up. We make the gods up, folks. There's no money. Do you really think? Let me just say something. So here, I got money, right? It's all fake. This cannot do anything for me personally in its form, other than the value that we assign to it for barter, trade, taxes, etc. These are all concepts of the human imagination. It's a fact. Let's continue. It is this diversity of imagined realities that sapiens invented and the resulting different behavior that we today refer to as culture. Ever since we created a culture, these have changed and developed, leading to the changes in what we refer to as history, commentary, opinion. It could be argued that all history is imaginary. All history is a result of someone before us in their imagination. Starting to see something here, folks? The transition to agriculture began around 9,500 years ago, and today 90% of the calories that feed humanity come from plants that our ancestors domesticated between 9,500 and 3,500 BC. Wheat, rice, maize, potatoes, millet, barley. Even though the agricultural revolution increased the food supply, this extra food did not translate in an increase in the quality of life for most humans. It led to a population explosion, social and class division, exploitation, and diet problems that have never existed before. What we have done to ourselves today, we are killing ourselves. The reset button is already in motion. It cannot be stopped. It has passed the precipice. If you look at what we feed the world today, what you and I eat on a daily basis is not food. Our ancestors would have been repulsed by it, most likely would have died very quickly from it. We have just basically poisoned ourselves little by little by little. And we see it today in how many in this chat room right now, be honest, are diabetic, pre-diabetic. Oh, and it just goes on and on. I just go on with the list. All the result of what we eat. The agricultural revolution allowed sapiens to settle and begin forming large communities that had never before existed. These communities began to developing different cultures to organize themselves. It is this imagined order that allows us to cooperate effectively and, as such, create a more specialized society. Human rights is an imagined order. A Homo sapien has no natural rights in the same way that a dog does, an elephant, a dolphin, or an ant have any natural rights. Gravity, a natural order, will not cease to exist tomorrow. In contrast, an imagined order is only valid because enough people believe in its truth or its validity. Did you see that? An imagined order is only valid because enough people believe enough people believe in its truth or validity. Since all these imagined orders that we created are not passed down in our DNA, we needed to create external tools to preserve them. A great leap in helping us maintain the imagined orders that we created came with the invention of full script writing, cuneiform, invented around 3000 BC to 3000 BC to 2500 BC by the Sumerians. You see how it's all tying together? This is what we are in. We are in the greatest knowledge explosion I think our species has ever seen. Sapiens are able to organize in mass cooperation networks, even though we lack the biological instincts to do so due to our created imagined orders and devised scripts. It is these myths and fiction that accustomed us from the mementos of birth to think in certain ways and behave in accordance with certain standards, to want certain things and to observe certain rules. This network of artificial instincts is called culture. It's not natural to us, never has been. That's why each and every one of us have, when it gets right down to this, the moment, let's say if someone is going to shoot you, Let's just say it is as real as it gets. That's why the instinct takes over, the primal instinct. Flight or fight. We've had to do it for millions of years, folks. Money is the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever devised. And the best part, it all lives in the imagination of sapiens. It's a fact. It is thanks to the system of trust society was able to cooperate in newer ways and develop. Money is the only system developed by humans that can bridge cultural gaps and does not discriminate. Anyone can take that money, that bill, and go into any merchant and buy something. Doesn't matter what your color is. Now, yes, there have been exceptions in those even in our cultures. But still, bottom line reality is that money will spend regardless. I think a dog could probably go into a grocery store, if that would be the case, and put a $20 bill and it would be acceptable. Empires are also a sapien creation, has been the world's most common form of political organization for the last 2,500 years. Empires allow people and cultures to develop while furthering cooperation. If we don't have cooperation now at this point, and you can see it fraying, once the cooperation stops, we're going to stop. Religion, another great unifier of mankind, has given superhuman legitimacy to the fragile social orders and hierarchies. Religion asserts that our laws are not the result of some human caprice, but they are created by a supreme authority. This helps place some fundamental moral and behavioral standards of our society beyond challenge, therefore ensuring social stability. Whatever your religion is, it was designed by us, but it was designed for one purpose and one purpose only: for you not to question, for you not to seek, not to reason, not to think. We invented the gods. We invented religion. We wrote it. People say, well, the Bible's God's word. No, it's not. It's man's word. No God sat down and wrote it and got on a white horse and brought it down to us. It's our imagination. It's our invention. It's our creation. Why? We have to have social stability. Otherwise, it doesn't work. In the past 500 years of our history, we have seen unprecedented growth and power of our species. This process is known as the scientific revolution. Rooted in this revolution is a belief that the problems that have plagued humans were not our inevitable fate, but rather the result of our ignorance. This quest to acquire new knowledge to solve problems has given sapiens unprecedented power. That's what distinguishes us amongst the other animals. I know some people don't like to hear that, but a capitalist creed developed in Europe whose first and most important belief is this: the profits of production must be reinvested in increased production. Capital is the investment of resources to create new production, and it is different from wealth accumulation or wasted on unproductive activities. It is through this ideal that we have seen unprecedented economic growth in the world. We've seen it in past empires: Rome, British, Spanish. We can go all the way back to the Hellenists. Money, commerce, capital. You cannot be idle. It's appalling to our species to have lazy people. We shun them. They are a blight to our species. This has been the doctrine for thousands and thousands of years. It's why we're so good at human sacrificing. Yes, we are good at that. We invented it. I continue. The most important economic resource in a free market is economic trust in the future. That's what Wall Street's all about. Wall Street's nothing about today. It's what tomorrow brings. And that's the weird coitus of it all. It is the job of a political system to ensure trust in this market by legislating sanctions, cheats, and provide the support necessary, i.e., police, courts, jails, to enforce the laws. There are no laws of God. There are only laws of man. We invented them, we write them, we also enforce them. We are a species that loves making laws. From the city council level to, in our case, in the United States, all the way to the halls of Congress, we love making laws. We love exempting ourselves from those who are making the laws. And very seldom do we ever rescind laws. We forget them, but we just continue to add laws to it. This is us. The Industrial Revolution is fundamentally a revolution in the conversion of energy, which we have proven to only be limited by our ignorance. Every time we have felt we hit a limit, through our ingenuity, we discover a new source of energy to keep satisfying our insatiable demands. The human spirit cannot be satisfied. The human body cannot be satisfied. The human mind cannot be satisfied. It's impossible. It's an elusive, imaginary place we call heaven, Elysium. Only exists up here, folks. We live in an unprecedented era of peace brought about by the invention of the atomic bomb, which dramatically escalates the price of war, and by the declining profits of war. For most of our history, nations enriched themselves through looting or annexing territories. In today's society, wealth consists mainly of human capital. Human capital. Indenturitude. And organizational know-how. Both of these cannot be conquered by military force. Family and community have a larger impact on our happiness than money or health. Most disturbing, our happiness is the result of our biology. We have evolved through natural selection to never be in complete ecstasy or complete misery. Evolution requires us to have mood swings, and those are relative to our circumstances, not absolutes. Money, social status, plastic surgery, beautiful homes, powerful positions. None of them will bring us happiness. Lasting happiness comes only from serotonin, dopamine, and OxyContin. A meaningful life can be extremely satisfying even in the midst of hardship, whereas a meaningless life is a terrible ordeal no matter how comfortable it is. Today, sapiens are on the cusp of a biological revolution that will alter 4 billion years of natural selection to replace it with intelligent design. The consequences of this revolution would be far greater than anything our little species has achieved before. Self-made gods with only the laws of physics to keep us company and accountable to no one. It's time for our species to grow up, to wake up. We are the God. What does God look like? I challenge you. What does God look like? No one will ever answer the question. It's because it can't take on form. It doesn't have the ability to take on form. That's why it only lives up here. Divine force of life? Yes. That's the gift. So, there you go. There's my little presentation. Give me 1 second, please, as I get out of this. So here we are. Wow, 200 people plus in here. So, I mean, what do you do with the history? I know it's kind of shocking when you see someone put that down into words, but I think that when you look at what our species is, we're a species with many different races. We don't know where we came from. We really don't know how it started. I mean, it's just lost. I don't think it will ever come back. And as far as our species in the mist right now, it is evolving into something that I think in 100 years is not going to resemble anything of what we look like today. Case in point, allow me to show you something here. Here's what my point is here. Give me 1 second, please. And there we go. Here we go. Shock study. Quarter of children 6 and under own a smartphone. Now we call this the natural progression of technology. I did a video called Checkmate and another one called We Are Worshiping What? This is what's happening. We are seeing the transformation of a species before our eyes. No one knows where this is going. No one can even begin to imagine. We live in a causality reality. This is one of those that you just have to say, what is up? Seriously. I thought that this one was relevant as well. You know, we all talk about the RH factor, how it got into us. It may very well be that we were the ones who bred with apes. I know it sounds strange, but apparently that's what we have done in the past. And it's carried on in other species very similar to ourselves. This is a great website. How vulnerable, are we to collapse? We are on the verge of collapse. The dangerous rise and impending collapse of Homo sapiens. When you begin to look at this, robots greet customers at world's first personalist bank branch where humanoids manage everything. My whole point to all this, folks, is that we are seeing right now the transformation. I read today in one of the financial journals that Amazon, it's Jeff Bezos. Get this. If you want to go and see what they're going to do, go watch the movie with Will Smith in it, I, Robot. They want to put a robot into every domicile in the world. I mean, you see, hey, Trisha, how you doing? Tomorrow, I will be with Trisha at noon at this time. Good to see you, Trisha. Also, tonight, I will be with Brandon over in Milky Way weekly. So check him out. 7 o'clock my time, 9 Eastern. So let's get right back to this point. When you begin to see all of this, you have to begin to ask yourself, what's happening? Right now, the new gods of our modern era, these new gods are Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson. They are even above the Rothschilds. The old order is falling to this new order. Now, the one thing wealth will bring you is unprecedented power. Homo sapiens don't do well when they're in a position of having power. You've heard the thing that absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's why we change on people. It's why we betray people. When we begin to elevate in social status, economic status, suddenly we change our attitudes. It's just the way we are. It's how we are, and it's because of millions of years behind us. I said this: nature will abort a flaw, and it's true. So we know we're not a flawed species, at least in the fact of our evolution of being able to survive. We have larger brains. And I want to put another kind of a misstating. You've always heard we only use 10% of our brain. No, that is wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, you use all of your brain. If you didn't, you would be a vegetable. A vegetable. The fact is that most only use 8% of the capacity of what their brain is able to do. Why is that? Why is it that we cannot unlock this great cranial mass? Again, we don't ask ourselves these questions. You know, when it comes down to just the essentials of life, you only need a brain about that big. It would suffice for everything you would need. But we have these large craniums. And most of us have no idea. In fact, I would say virtually all of us. There are a few through genetic whatever that have learned to unlock greater parts. And we also know that there are other ways of unlocking that. Resets happen and have happened in the past. Most resets have happened because of primarily of about 4 reasons. There has been a natural cataclysmic disaster globally, disease, weather, wars, failure of a species being able to adapt. So there you go. Claudette, you may be right. We've turned most of our knowledge over to the other means of memory and thought. But here's the thing I have on that, Claudette. I'm seeing something that is not good. I'm seeing our species lose the ability to remember. We already have amnesia, but the cognitive ability of recall amongst our species is declining at a rapid rate. The average high schooler graduating today cannot remember a phone number. They have the unprecedented ability of not being able to recall. It is dependent on a machine for them to interface their memory. That's the evolution of a species. We're seeing it. In my day, I remember my golden Rolodex I had on my desk, and I could recall every number of my major clients. I could do it strictly by memory. Today, people can't do it. May be true, Claudette. May be true. We're not taught how to use it. I know we're changing. We're rapidly changing. And as I have said before on the 4 W's questions, what is the purpose of God? What is God's purpose? I'm going to post the radio show so all of you can listen to it. What is the purpose of God and humanity's relationship? Why our species? What is it that humanity is supposed to be learning from a relationship with a God? How long is it supposed to take for humanity to learn? How would a species be graded and be determined to be a mature species? You see, we start getting to all of these questions about us, and this is where, I ask the question, what is the purpose of religion? We found out what the purpose of religion is. I answered it for you. It's control. And the control, by all definitions, is good. It's acceptable. It keeps us in boxes. We cannot have 7.5 billion people freely thinking. Chaos would ensue. Anarchy would be the net result. At least that's what they tell us. I happen to think that maybe something else would happen. That one day, we as a species will arise above our superstition, our ignorances, our myths, and make demand on that which we have upheld above us all. We cannot hold a God accountable. That would then blow it away. And as a result, we blame each other. And this is what I think we're missing. We now know why politics works. We know now why all of us are enslaved in this system. And enslaved we are. We did it to ourselves. It's the only way. Listen, any politician you vote for, you're in voting for your own slavery. Every time you go to the ballot and you pull that button or check that box, all you're doing is voting for someone to abuse you, to be above you, to tax you, and to absolutely ridicule you. That's what it is. Why? Because we feed off each other. We, as a species, hurt each other. We do this because back when it was competition for survival. That's why people kill. That's why people steal. We have politicians, they're all liars. Every politician, every congressman, every senator, even the president is a liar. We are a lying species. We are a killing species. We do this. We do it regularly. We do it without thought. I'm just speaking the truth here. People don't like to hear it. I'll tell you the other thing we all are. Each and every one of us are bigots. You know why? Because if you think about this, you have your own ideas. I have my own ideas. Now, if you come against my idea, I'm going to come against your idea. Now we've formed the boundaries of what bigotry is. Bigotry is the inability of being tolerant of another thought. Take the flat earthers. The flat earthers are as worse, they're as bad as any religious zealot I have come across. Does it matter whether the earth is flat or round? Figure out why you're here. Figure out why you aren't part of the solution. Ask yourself why you're part of the problem. I mean, at some point in time, we have to wake up to this. When is humanity going to grow up? When are we going to hold ourselves accountable for the mess that's out there? It's not any God. It's not any devil. They don't exist. And I challenge anyone to show me a demon. Show me an angel. Show me a God. They don't exist but up here. You create them. We've created them. And this is the power we give to them. Now, I know people are going to argue with me on it. That's fine. But I've been at this a long time enough to begin to realize that the deception is everywhere. We do it to ourselves. And that's in the book I'm writing. What have we not tried or done? What? We can't make enough laws. We can make all the laws we want. People will break them. All right, so what do we do now? Well, we invent gods or religions. Don't know about you, but when I look out in the world, I haven't seen one thing that religion has benefited mankind other than corralling them into a barn. Show me. One positive thing of what religion has done, other than what it was designed to do, to control. Politics. Show me what politics has ever benefited our society, other than control. Oh, this has been a fun one. Hey, Jeff, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, listen. Heavy, heavy stuff, I know. Now, here's the thought that I've been thinking about. We've had a long, long time to feed a lot of energy into the imaginations of our creations. And I think we're learning just how good at creating we are. It's what distinguishes us. And that's what I said. Listen, the divine force is here. It's everywhere. I contend all the time. How can there ever be a hell? The unimaginable, the divine, the infinite being, that life force that permeates everything. It's in the photons. Very photon itself is actually essence of the infinite being. So how could I ever be separated? I'm more in love with this force than I ever have been, more mystified by it, more energized by it. I know it's there. And when I lay this body down, no matter what waits for me, I know my thoughts will be united as they are right now with the infinite being, the creative force that unites all of us. In fact, if we could only recognize it's not God, it's that creative force that binds everything. The plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, our species. Maybe one day we could put aside religion and politics and realize that this is not competition about survival. Maybe then we might figure it out. I don't know. But I know the voices are out there. People like Jeff, Rex, Heidi, Jennifer. There's just so many I could name here. And there's more being added to the numbers all the time. I asked on Sunday, if we had a chance to sit down with the president, what would we tell him? What would we tell him that would be different than what he's getting advice already from his religious points of view, his economic points of view, his legal points of view? What could we give him as a point of view as the true purpose of humanity, of our species? What would we say to him in 15 minutes? What would we could say to a powerful man that has risen, who's gotten all the money in the world, like a Jeff Bezos, a Mark Zuckerberg? I can just go on. Where is their soul at? What is it that they see differently? I tell you, most of the time they laugh at us. I don't know. I didn't have ape with a sex. Well, you know what? I'm going to bring that out, Jeff, because that's a good point. I didn't either. And I didn't sin either. I didn't sin because some cat ate some fruit so long ago, you can't tell me when. So if I didn't have sex with an ape, I certainly damn sure didn't have original sin. All right. Got that out. All right, folks, this has been fun. That's what I do. I was awakened this morning again about 4:20, 4:30. I have a great book here. It's called The Oxford Companion of the Mind. Unfortunately, it's a very expensive book, but it's unlike any other book you can imagine. And it expands this whole thought process. I have been meditating on what our species has done wrong. Why can't we get this right? And I think I'm beginning to see a little piece of it. Maybe if we understood that we're not 6,000 years old, we're not 10,000 years old, that we're way older than that. And today we have a special gift, and that's what I'm realizing. Maybe we are on the verge of ascension. I have a feeling that maybe there's a remnant from every species that figures it out. We know this, we have found complete societies that disappeared. Now, many of them just simply migrated and they learned that living in a community was not working and they dispersed. I don't know. I think we're getting close. All right, folks. I appreciate y'all. Listen, there's a lot of thought here that sometimes goes contrary to many other people's core beliefs. I understand that. But knowledge is not meant to be pleasant. Knowledge has a cost. And if you're a true seeker of knowledge, you're going to have to realize it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something personally. It's the only way you acquire it. All right, my folks. Appreciate you. We'll see. Come back. Come over on Brian's channel, Milky Way Weekly. Let's support him. I think it'll be fun. I always like being interviewed, and so we'll see how that rolls tomorrow. I'll get here with Trisha, and folks, just take good care of yourselves. Learn to love you. You see this? This what makes us unique is that we can sense the touch. And what I've come to understand, every time I touch something, I'm touching the divine. All right, folks, we'll talk real soon. Bye-bye.